Hi guys, Allison here, the Bored Housewife. Thank you so much for joining me for another week's episode of The Bored Housewife. I am feeling very festive this week. I have my Christmas sweater on, have my tree in the background, red lipstick, definitely trying to channel Mrs. Claus to the best of my ability. But yeah, I've been posting on my Instagram account 25 days of holiday cheer and just trying to, spread a little holiday fun, some Christmassy, cozy feelings. Definitely has been getting me in the mood this year, and I just wanted to share if anyone else needed a little extra help or, possibly just really loves Christmas as much as I do. So definitely give that a look if you like. But this week I am talking about values. Last week we talked about adversity. This week I'm talking about values, and I think talking about adversity first kind of, strips things down, because when we face adversity, and I talked about this a little bit last episode, when we have that, it kind of brings us to these really clear moments of what's actually important to us. And I think that helps us kind of determine what our values are. So I'm going to get into all of that very shortly here. But yeah, so cheers guys, let's have some fun. Okay, so let's get started. I don't have much of a cocktail. Our Thanes are still not here yet. So I am drinking a Guinness today. Thank goodness they have Guinness in Japan. I've been drinking them a lot. But yeah, hopefully our Thanes get here by next week. We have it scheduled for next week, Thursday. So fingers crossed everything goes smoothly, and that's when our things get delivered, because I'm kind of going out of my mind. I am ready for our things to be here, and yeah. So let's get into the episode. So I wanted to do these two podcasts so close to the holidays. I think I told you, let me actually go grab the book real quick. Okay, I want to give this guy credit because I feel like he really nailed what I was feeling and thinking about. I think a lot of us feel and think about, I just wasn't thinking of it in that way, and I didn't have a word for it. Mark Manson really talks about values a lot in this book, and I'll get into it a little bit throughout the episode. I'm not fully going off of everything that he said. More so what he said kind of inspired me and also kind of solidified some of the thoughts that I was already having. But I've talked about this before. I think it's a really fun book. And if you guys are needing a self-help book that's not really a self-help book, this would be a really good one. It's fun to read and just really makes a lot of sense. So I wanted to do this so close to the holidays because I think this is a time of year where everyone's reflecting on things. We're getting ready for the new year. People start making those New Year's resolutions, and there's just this kind of freshness, new opportunity to kind of look at things differently. It's a great time of year, but also, we go into it with so much hope and so much feeling that this year's going to be different. This is going to be my year, I got really sick and tired a few years back. I think people finally have stopped doing it because of COVID, but they were just hating on the year before as if it was can we just erase that year from ever happening? And everyone would be like, oh, 2020, it's going to be our year. And then but they were like doing this from like 2016 through 2017, 2018. It's just like, okay, I get it. Like, we all are having hard times sometimes, and it sucks. But you're telling me that you didn't have one good thing happen to you in the entire year, that you got to wish it away, like wish it never happened. And then 2020 happened, and I think everyone was just kind of like, oh my God, okay, never mind, I'll take all those other shitty years back. But my point of saying this is, like, so many of us start out with good intentions that we're going to hit that weight loss plan, hit the gym, like, sign up for the membership and all the stuff, or, you're going to try harder at your job, or, you're going to wake up on time and get dressed and ready before you get your kids off to school. Like, it could be like really simple stuff that we like make for ourselves. But if our values are not rooted with whatever our resolutions are, I feel that, there's not going to be a lot of help there for self-improvement. And so I'm going to get into what I kind of view these values as, and like give a very personal example, because I've been thinking about this a lot, and you guys have known, if you've been listening for a little while, I've been struggling with my own creative endeavors, and just being on top of myself and all of that, and I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress, and I think that's number one thing to remember. You're not going to change all of this in a year, first of all, and for some of us, it's just about getting our intentions in the right place first before we can even begin, trying to make it to the gym every day, or trying to, put in that extra effort at work, or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So what do I mean when I say values? And I was kind of talking about this a little bit at first. Values, I think a lot of times we kind of put like a monetary worth to it, and maybe not so monetary, but there's some sort of worth to your value. So your family, your kids, your husband, your parents, your siblings, whatever, those people have sort of this feeling of like worth to them that, you can't really put money on them, right? There's no price tag, right? But there's still this sort of like, when we talk about value, we can talk about it in sort of like, these people are so worth it. These people, they'll make sacrifices because they're worth it, because of this or that. Where like, somebody that you've never met before asking you to do something for them that might be risky or a hard choice to make or something, they wouldn't be worth it, because that value to them doesn't exist the same way that your family and friends do. We put value on our things, like, again, like, we have some things have actual monetary value to them, but then maybe like a photo album of all your childhood pictures, for those of us born before the internet existed, like, not all of our photos are documented on Instagram and Facebook. So, we still have photo albums that we cherish and are really important to us, because that's it. That's all that exists of what we look like when we were born. So there's little things like that where I think when we think of value, we're like, oh, well, that's of a lot of value to me, because there's a lot of worth connected to it, whether it's monetary or sentimental worth, or, different kinds of worth that we can have. And then there's a value that we're going to be kind of talking on surface level. That the surface level value is that value of like things that are important to you. So I value my marriage. I value my husband. What does that mean? Okay, so I want to be there for him. I want to be a good wife. I want to, take care of our home. There's certain things that go along with that value. But then there's this other deeper rooted value at the core of that. And that's what I'm really talking about, because that's the thing, like, okay, surface level value, I value my friends and family. I value my marriage. I value my job. I value being able to put food on the table. Like, whatever it is, whatever the thing is that you think about that's important to you, I value my creative expression, you know? But is that enough? Is that enough to get you up every day and put in 110% into that thing? Is your marriage enough to, make you want to have, a really clean and nice environment for your family or whatever it is? So with that being there, there's something else underneath it. There's like, another core, more powerful value that actually is driving you to be good, or to at least feel good about these certain values. Like, you want to be a good wife. Like, I want to be a good wife, but, when I don't clean or cook, I feel guilty. I feel bad about that because there's something else underneath there that's driving it. And in this case, I would say that value is love. Like, love pushes a lot of drive and feeling. So it's not just that I want to be a good wife, but it's because I love my husband so much that it helps me be a good wife. It helps me, make dinner when I don't want to. It helps me clean the house when I don't want to. It helps me move to Okinawa. It helps me move to Alabama. This like under very, very strict core value is what makes what I have with my husband special. So these are the things that I'm talking about, and these are the things that we have to figure out. It's not just like everyone wants to be good, everyone wants to have these things, maybe you really value money, but there's these other core things that are going to drive that. And I think those core things can sometimes be, really positive and wonderful, and other times they can kind of have more of a negative effect. So you have to be kind of careful on what you value. But that's what I want to kind of drive home, because this isn't just your like, I value my girlfriends, it's like, okay, well, you value your girlfriends, but what are you actually like doing to put in time with them? Like, why aren't you putting in time? Or if you are putting in time, what is that makes you, value your friends so much? So these are the things that drive us. That's mostly what I'm going to be talking about today. So it's really hard to like make self-improvement when our values aren't super clear. And so it's really important to try to figure out what it is that you value. And I know that's like, oh, well, that's obvious, Allison. But if you really think about it, and if you really concentrate on where you're at in your life, and if you look at the parts that are being a little bit feeling less fulfilled, and the parts that, are excelling, and then kind of, try to strip those down and figure out like what's at the core of those things, you'll start to realize like those things that aren't feeling as fulfilled, you're not probably having that drive and that core value that's helping you drive and fulfill it. And I want to say before we get too far into this, like, you can have multiple values. Like, you're going to have things in your life that are more important, and you're also going to have things that kind of change over time too, like right now you might be a mother, and that's going to be, probably really important to you that you do a really great job being a mother. And so your core value, that's going to come from somewhere to drive you, to wake up every day. Maybe it's like, I think for myself, like if I were to have kids, I would just want like, I think a driving factor would be creating really great functioning humans to go off into the world. Because sometimes, you see things and you hear things and you're just like, where are these people coming from? So I would really love to just have my, my interpretation of the world, getting to share that with a person and hoping that it would inspire them to kind of, continue on that way and just be whatever. But anyways, like, but you're going to be in a mother. If you're going back to this example, I got too far off on a tangent there. But, being a mother, there's certain things that you have to do, right? Even bare minimum. There's something that's driving you to at least do the bare minimum, okay? And you're not always going to be like that. And even as your kids age, they're going to need you less. You're going to have to take on a different role. There's going to be so many different changes that happen within even just a few years of each other. And then, once your kids go off and then they become mothers or they become, fathers and have their own families or do whatever they're doing and, they're not under your care anymore, then it's going to be a whole other thing, So I think that it's important to realize that we can have multiple values. I value my marriage. I value being a good wife. I value my friends. I value, whatever it is. And all of those things can be different. And they can have, different driving forces to them as well. And they can have, varying levels of what that is too. I'm a really devoted wife. I've realized this over the last few weeks when I was just really trying to think of what my deal is here. It's really important to me to try to be as supportive as I can to my husband. Now, maybe outside eyes, they would think oh, you're not very supportive at all. Or some other people would be like, wait, yeah, you're way supportive. You're too supportive. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's whatever my idea is and where my standards are and what, what bar I set myself, or not even bar, but where I put myself as far as this is how I see being a good supportive wife, and this is what I want to accomplish. And now, how much of that am I actually accomplishing? And so I realized that my love for my husband really takes a large part of my life now. Me wanting to be supportive and helpful and, do all these things by being a good wife. All of those things take up a lot of my energy and thoughts and, just my day-to-day kind of stuff. However, I have other things that I have interests in, and I've kind of identified a few different things now about myself, which I'll get into, but, I feel like there's this little hole there now because I've stripped away so much of who I was, identifying with these certain things, and they're not there anymore. But this creative, expressive person still is, and she still wants to do something with that. And so it's hard because I ask myself, if you want to do this so much, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it? And why is it so hard for you to, start a project and all of this stuff? And I really don't have the answer for it yet. And, well, I have part of the answer, but I don't have the answer as to, what's going to continue to drive me. But I basically kind of realized, before I met my husband, or before my husband and I got married, my values were really fucked up. And so, and not that they were, bad, but they weren't good for me. And so it's again, over the last 3 years before we moved here, I, found this person who had identified with being a hustler, working all these jobs, working my butt off, I don't need to sleep, I'll sleep when I die sort of person, wanting to just continue to climb and just make good impressions on everyone and do all this stuff. And then I went from all of that to sitting in a house in Alabama by myself for the majority of the day and being completely unmotivated, completely uninspired, and just not knowing what to do. And fulfilled in one part of my life because, while I was that hustler, crazy person that wanted to work all the time, I felt this huge sense of loneliness of, not having a steady boyfriend or, on the way to being married or any of that, and wanting a family, wanting to do those things. And so, boys consumed my my thoughts a lot and was very distracting. Somehow I still did all of it, but, it was just distracting. So, getting married to my husband, loving him so much, being in a family now, like, that part of my life feels very fulfilled and very good. It's this other part now that has gone away, and I've realized, I don't need the hustle the same way. I don't have to climb the ladder and work all these crazy hours necessarily to still be able to be creative and expressive. And coming to terms with all of that and figuring out who I am outside of all of that, because when you identify with like actions, that kind of makes things a little weird. So I realized part of my drive of doing all of that before was I valued fame and fortune. And it's really hard for me to admit that, but reading Mark Manson's book, I just realized, I'm like, yeah, I don't think my intentions of anything that I've done, like professionally, even when I was trying to be a dancer, I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be the most famous dancer. And I've been thinking about where the hell did that come from, because it's not really my personality. Like, I enjoy attention. I enjoy kind of hamming it up and whatever, but like, I'm not like, I don't really care about money and I don't really care about fame, but I do. It's really weird. And so, I basically think it kind of set in when I was young. And so I was a child of a 17-year-old mother, living in our small community. Everyone knows each other, and I went to the same school that my mom went to, had some like similar teachers even. They still remembered her. It wasn't that long ago when they had her. And so there was always this like idea or this kind of like feeling that people were just waiting for me to fuck up, like just waiting for me to turn out exactly like my mother. And I always kind of felt that pressure a little bit. And it was like, and it wasn't like people were rude or mean to me, but it was just like, I didn't want to prove them right. And statistically speaking, I probably, should have ended up pregnant at 17. But somehow, I had a great mom, I had great grandparents, and, I had a great family that was really supportive and, helped me find my interests and, helped me put my efforts there and all of that. But it was like, I still felt this kind of pressure and, just awkwardness almost sometimes too. And so I never wanted to give anyone an excuse for their kid not to want to hang out with me or to have anyone say anything bad behind my back because my mom was so young when she had me. So I took that and I put so much pressure on myself that I had to do everything perfect. And not only did I have to do everything perfect, I had to be the best at it. So if I was going to be a dancer, I was going to be the best dancer. Now was I? No, I was not. But I was trying to be. I was going to be an overachiever in school. Like, I graduated high school in 3.5 years. Like, I worked my little butt off to move to New York City. Like, all of this was proving a point. And it got me to a really great place in my life. It's not like it was bad. But then when I moved to New York City, I found animosity there. So whereas before I felt like I was kind of under a microscope a little bit and I had to be this role model, I had to be this good kid and do all the right things, once I moved to New York, I realized that I can be more myself. And again, not that I was getting into trouble or anything like that, but I just didn't feel like I had to conform as much as I was when I, was living in a town where if you fart, people will hear about it, okay? So I just was all of a sudden wow, I have this freedom. And so that pressure though, that feeling of wanting to be the best and this overachiever, even though it wasn't coming from the same place anymore, it turned into this fame and fortune thing. It still turned into, I have a point, I have something to prove to myself and to everybody, and I'm going to do it by being famous and rich. And that is what has pushed me along all the way up until I met my husband. So I just really recently figured this out about myself because, like I said, I've been the last few months and really the last few weeks, I've been trying to figure out what this value is that drives me. And I'm happy that I identified that the fame and fortune sort of idea was what was at my core of wanting to be creative and expressive, because I am not motivated by that. And so that's why I'm sharing so much of myself today, because I think it's a really great example of, I did have a core value and I realized it was a shit core value. I looked at myself and I realized that's not making me want to be a better person. That's not making me want to wake up and write in the morning. Inspiration and motivation only come around every once in a while. I can't rely on that every single time I'm trying to work on a project. So what is it that is going to help me get there, So really, yeah, when I got with my husband, it just was a very humbling experience in the best way. And I know sometimes people say that and it's more of this negative thing that happened to them that humbled them. But it was actually this really positive thing that happened to me that humbled me, because this part that wasn't being fulfilled for so long now is. And I don't care about the money. I don't care about the fame the same way that I used to, because I have somebody who thinks the world of me and who helps, meet all of my needs. I'm not struggling and hustling like I used to. Would it be great to have lots of money? Sure, I would love that. Who wouldn't? But, it's not, to me, having all the money in the world, how much, you got to work hard for all of that. How much do I want to work? How much, so it's I've kind of realized that that's not something that I want to drive me anymore. And it's not even that I don't want it. It's just not. My fulfilledness over here is yeah, we don't care. Okay, fame and fortune, woohoo, So what is it now that is going to drive me? And so I kind of came up with this idea. So I, have been thinking about what's going to drive me, what's going to help me in my creative expression, if that's really what I want to do. I am pouring a little bit of this Texas whiskey because it's so good. My throat is getting a little parched. Oh, it's so good. It's like caramel. It's so yummy. And so, yeah, it's been really difficult because I almost, it's okay to change your values. Mark Manson talks about that a lot. I realized that I had this shitty value that is not driving me anymore. And what am I going to do with it? I got to let it go and I got to figure out something else. I even considered maybe creative expression isn't your thing anymore. Maybe it's time to give it up. Maybe that's not what you're doing. And when I sat with that for a little bit, I just realized no, I'm not ready to stop doing this. I have a voice. There's something that I want to say. I just need to figure out how to get myself to say it. It's not even I even know how I want to say it. I know how I want to do it. I just have to make myself do it. And so, and some people might call that robot mode. I don't like that because I tried robot mode and it was shit. I just produced shit stuff. And you know why? Because I wasn't in it for the right reasons. You have to be in it for the reason that's working for you, and not right or wrong, it's bad or good, just right for what is going to actually create a good thing for you, a positive thing for you. And so, yeah, the best thing that I could so far have come up with is that I like to inspire. I like helping people. I think that I have a unique point of view. And so at this moment, I'm sitting here with the idea that maybe my core value is inspiration, and not inspiration as for me inspiration for other people, you know? And it's kind of similar in a way to fame and fortune. So it's not like they're that far apart, but their motives are just very different, right? So where one is like a genuine human connection, I want to be helpful to people, and the other is I just want to see my face on every billboard and have all the money, you know? Like, it's still about being present in people's lives, but fame and fortune requires lots of people and, you know, to know you and to want your product, whatever your brand, whatever it is that you're doing. Whereas like being inspirational, that is more so if I'm inspiring to one person, I could be fulfilled by that, you know? So I'm not fully convinced that's what it is, but I'm sitting on it. And it's going to take some time, because when you've been, you know, when you've had your head in a certain direction for so long, and then you decide like, oh, wait a second, you know, like it pretty much took me 3 years to figure out that I actually like being a housewife. I like taking care of my husband. You know, that's a long time to have to sit with that. I'm hoping that this one doesn't take as long, because I have some things that I would like to do, and you know, life's short. I don't want to waste it on just sitting here being like, what is it that I value? You know? But the other one was really hard. That was a big change for me, and it needed the time, and I needed the awareness as well. And so whatever made me pick up my philosophy books again, I don't know, but I'm very thankful for it. And so here I am again thinking about, you know, what's this other thing? Like, now that I'm fulfilled over here, what's this? So now I want to kind of help you guys sort of, you know, put yourself in this scenario now, and your homework or whatever it is. What is it that you're struggling with? So that's why we talked about adversity last week. What is the thing that is really difficult for you right now in your life? And or what's that thing that just kind of feels missing? It's just not there. How can you either fill that hole with something, like maybe it's a new hobby, maybe it's a new job, maybe it's new whatever, maybe it's actually something new, kind of like in my scenario where I have to figure out this new core value, because as fulfilled as I am being with my husband and being a great housewife, that only takes a certain portion of my day. That's not a 24/7 hour job. So there's this big emptiness, you know, that something needs to be done there, because then I think I'll feel a little bit more like a whole person. So maybe you guys are like me. You just have this chunk of something that's just not quite working. Or maybe you're kind of spread out, you know, really far, and you have all these different things going on, but there's a problem area in your life, or maybe there's a few problem areas in your life. And so just start thinking about what those things are, why you do those things, and then the answer to why you do those things is usually probably where your values will kind of come from. So if you work a really crazy job, okay? It's crazy. It doesn't make you happy, but why do you do it? Okay, I do it because I need money to pay for my family's whatever, put food on the table, pay for our house, do all these things. Okay, that's a big value, right? Now, what's the core value of that? Like, those are all really heavy things that require you to do this, like, really crazy job. So, where's that feeling? Where's that drive coming from? If it's love, if it's, you know, this really beautiful, wonderful thing, then, how can you maybe direct your concentration somewhere else? Yeah, that value of needing to take care of your family is still going to be there. That core value is still going to be there. But then maybe that other thing you need to kind of figure out. Or if that core value is like, I just don't like doing any of it. I do it because I feel like I have to. Somebody has to do it, sort of feeling. Maybe more of like out of desperation than out of love, sort of. I'm not trying to put words in anyone's mouth, but like just trying to give you an idea of like how your feelings can be different and you can still be doing the same things. In that scenario, if you have a family to take care of, that's your responsibility. That's something that you've committed to. You work this job because you have to provide all this. Maybe there's something there differently. Maybe you need to direct your attention somewhere else so you can feel more of the love or feel more of a more positive feeling doing these sorts of things. And maybe, like this job, you do it because it makes a lot of money, or this job, you do it whatever. Maybe you find something that you don't make as much money. Everyone's needs are still met, but like you're not like spread thin from doing it. Maybe you have to just physically change your core value. You have to get your head on straight because of these responsibilities that you have, and this is the job that you have. Like those two things maybe aren't changing, but you can change the way you think about those two things. So that's really hard to do. And, how you want to live your life, though, might mean that you have to do that. So if you're in a scenario where, your kids, you feel taken advantage of by your kids, your family, all these different things, and you're just not feeling the love the same way you might have used to, what other little things can you tweak here and there to sort of get at that core value so that you can change your mindset? And it might still be, oh, I'm coming from a place of love now, but I'm not going to allow them to take advantage of me the same way. So I'm doing this because out of love, but my love has a few contingencies on it. It's not all for the taking, because no one can fully be like that, right? So, I have a lot of love for my husband, but like I said, I realize I have this other thing over here that's just not being fully fulfilled. Maybe you have a lot of love for your family and it's there, but you feel a little bitter, you feel a little broken down because it just feels totally taken advantage of. Like, there's so many different scenarios, and it's just about finding out what it is that you're struggling with, what that value is, and then kind of figuring out where that core of that value is coming from, what the drive is. Because if the drive isn't there in the right way for you, it's not going to drive you. It's not going to make you want to get up and go to that crazy job every day when you feel fully taken advantage of and nobody cares, right? It's not going to drive you to write the screenplay that you want to write because you don't know why the hell you're doing this anymore, It's not going to drive you to get up and go to the gym in the morning because maybe being skinny really just isn't that important to you, So we have to just figure out what's important to us. Like, my health is very important to me, and that's why I go and I try to eat healthy and I try to work out as much as I can. I would like to work out more than I do. I would like to eat, a little bit more nutritiously than I do. But at this point, like, how important is being a size 2 to me right now? It's just not. It's not important. I have these other things that I have to figure out. Maybe if I figure them out, then I can put a little more focus into my, health. But ultimately, I just want to be a healthy person. I don't necessarily care as much about being a size 2. what is your motivation for that? Do you care about being in a size 2? You know what I mean? So there's just all these different things. And no one can figure it out except yourself. I feel like we see it so much. It's talked about so much without actually being phrased this way. And then even when it is phrased with like, what are your morals? What are your values? You know, it's like they're kind of like all looped in together, and it's like morals are completely separate from values. You can have these values and be completely immoral. You know, like there are a lot of people who value money, and greed is their core value. You know, so to me, I wouldn't want to be a greedy person, and you know, greed would make you do some pretty crazy things sometimes. We see that a lot in this world. So be careful. Like, be careful with what you pick to value, and then, you know, really pay attention to why you're doing it. Like, if you're valuing being skinny, you know, why is that? Like, there could be some really scary things that come up underneath there that start motivating you. That would be really bad to potentially your mental health and physical health, depending on how far you would take it. So we, again, see that all the time. But body positivity is a thing that's why people talk about it, because it's important that we all have that. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up. I think you guys have it. But yeah, I just want you to be encouraging. Again, I'm specifically talking about it this time of year because there's so much to reflect on. So many good feelings, so many moments of reconciliation, and just all different things happening this time of year. And, you know, again, as you're looking for self-improvement in this next year, creating better habits, whatever it is that you're doing, those habits, those resolutions probably aren't going to pan out if your values aren't in the right place for them. So just think about that, because, you know, why go through all the effort to feel let down in a few months, you know? If you start something, really start focusing on why you're doing it. Are you just doing it so that you can look good for your vacation in 5 months? Or, you know, are you doing it because you want to make this a lifestyle change? And then, you know, go from there. If it is just so you can look good in a swimsuit in 5 months, maybe that's fine for you. And that works, you know. But if you're someone who's like, well, I want to look good in my swimsuit in 5 months, but then I want to continue to look good after that, like, probably is not going to happen, because when we don't do things in a productive and, you know, good way for us, we tend to go back to our old ways. And so you have to change your thought process on this stuff. And I think values is such an interesting and cool way to have a different kind of perspective on like where these things come from, and also really makes you think about it. Like I said, I've been thinking about this for weeks now, and I'm still not sure. Still not sure what my value is. So I'll keep you guys posted. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, email me if there's stuff that you guys are working on personally. I'd love to hear about it. I'm not a therapist or anything like that. This is all philosophy based. So again, if you have any questions about like my philosophical take on it or anything, I'm so happy to talk about that. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great Christmas. I think my next episode will be after Christmas. I hope you guys have a great Christmas, great holiday season. Just keep working on yourselves and asking those really hard questions, because they are hard, and kind of come face to face with, you know, what you want to do about it. And I just wish you all the best of luck. That's about it. All right. Cheers, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your week. A very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you soon.